Guys, it happened. It is here. It is out now for us to consume. If you've been a regular listener of the show or a watcher of the show over the last 18 months, you'll know that I've been talking with the clubhouse leader in terms of appearances on the TUSC pod, the legend, the ABS, the Aussie boxing scribe himself, Anthony Cox. We've hinted and we've teased at an unbelievable project that he has literally spent 7 years working on. It is here, right there, guys. The Brawl at the Sydney Opera House and other Aussie boxing yarns, all about diving into the rich history of Australian boxing through the 70s and 80s. Guys, I've got mine. I can't wait to read it. It's just been released today. So when you see this, I will have already read it. We'll be talking about it on the pod. We'll get Tony back on the pod to talk about it. Don't worry about that. But it is available globally on Amazon.com for you to all enjoy. The link to the book will be in the description of this episode, so click away. And if you do, not only will you be reading and consuming a fantastic boxing-related piece of literature, but you'll also be supporting one of the best guys in the sport globally. So available now, guys, The Brawl at the Sydney Opera House and other Aussie boxing yarns.
Let's go and move with life. Let it go, something new tonight. Let's go and move with life. Let it go, something new tonight.
All right, well, joining us today all the way from Boots Ennis territory, a long-time boxing media member, writer, editor, and highly respected wordsmith from multiple fan favourite podcasts with his partner in crime, Kieran Mulvaney. He's now a foundation team member across dual mediums with the newly launched The Good Fight, where along with his old mate Bill Detloff, he's resurrected the original boxing podcast, Electric Rascaloo style Ring Theory 2.0. Back once again, it's returning mate of the show, Eric Raskin. Eric, thanks for coming back on, mate.
Yeah, Zach, thanks for having me on. Nobody loves Electric Rascaloo more than you do. That line really stuck with you.
It did. And, like, people say, "Oh, I laughed so much when I read that." I literally laughed out loud. It was fantastic. One of the best pieces of writing I've read in a very long time.
Thanks very much. And yeah, I am coming to you right from Boots' hometown. Boots and I have so much in common. You almost don't know which one is Boots Ennis and which one is Eric Raskin. We're practically the same person.
Good friends, I hear. Good friends. But we'll certainly get to that fight coming up with Xander Zayas a little later in the show, Eric, because that is an absolute banger, and I'm sure you're just as excited as everyone else in the world seems to be, and rightfully so. But we'll just start, mate. Last weekend, you were at Canastota for the most recent International Boxing Hall of Fame induction weekend, I guess. As I understand it, Eric, from the article that you wrote up on The Good Fight, which we'll also get to a little later in the show as well, this was your third time there. Before we get into the specifics, what is that weekend sort of, has it lost its luster with you now being the third time, or is it sort of just as kind of special as it was the first time you went there?
I definitely wouldn't say it's lost its luster. Is it quite as special as the first time? I'm not sure. I guess I've actually been there 5 times, but only 3 times for the entirety of induction weekend. Once I was there some other time of year and just popped in and toured around the museum. And then there's one year I wrote a piece on this actually, where I went up on induction weekend just to get an interview with Marvin Hagler that I needed in order to do a story. I'd been waiting months to be able to write, that I needed him. I drove up, interviewed Marvin Hagler at the start of the weekend, turned around and drove home. So that one doesn't really count as being there for induction weekend.
Though.
It was a thrill to get to talk to him and to get the interview I needed in order to write the oral history I was working on. But so I've done the full induction weekend 3 times now, and I guess Detloff brought this up on our first episode back doing Ring Theory, and then Buddy McGirt talked about it a little bit while I was there, that it's not quite the same ever since the bar restaurant down the street from the Hall of Fame, Graziano's, closed. That was just this perfect watering hole meetup place there, and that's not there anymore. And that wasn't there the previous time that I was there for induction weekend either. But it was there the first time when I went to see my friend and mentor Nigel Collins get inducted. It's lacking a little something without Graziano's. It's a little different with so much taking place at Turning Stone Casino instead of on the Hall of Fame grounds. But nevertheless, it's still a great weekend. It is absolutely a bucket list item for any boxing fan to make sure to try to do induction weekend at least one time.
And is the program, or the itinerary, is it the same every year? Like, does the same thing sort of happen on each day, or what? I've never been. I've been lucky enough to speak to a couple of people that have been, and everyone has spoken amazingly glowingly about it. But like, specifically, what happens on what days, and is there free time to mingle? Like, if somehow we were to win the lotto and get a ticket from the other side of the world and go over, like, what could we expect?
It's a similar itinerary from year to year. They update it a little bit, and of course you're going to get different boxers speaking and signing and all that stuff. But yeah, it's the key elements are, so it starts on Thursday afternoon, but there's not a whole lot Thursday. It really picks up on Friday. There's at the Hall of Fame grounds, there are I'm forgetting now exactly what they call them, but like these speaking engagement Q&A sessions where there's no cost for a ticket. It's just pull up, grab a seat and gather round. And, Jesse James Leha is going to speak for a half an hour and take questions. And then a group of 5 referees will sit up there and do a round table and take questions. And then when they're done, they'll go to the table where they'll be signing autographs and everyone will wait in line. So that's like a big chunk of the day on Friday, and Saturday is a lot of that stuff. But then there's also fights at Turning Stone on the Friday night of every Hall of Fame weekend. There's a big banquet on the Saturday night of Hall of Fame weekend where all of the inductees are up on the dais and make shorter speeches than the ones they'll usually end up making for their induction. There's a 5K fun run on Saturday morning of Hall of Fame weekend. There's on Sunday is the actual induction, and there's like a parade through the town of Canastota with all of the inductees sitting in convertibles, waving at everyone as they go by, and then the parade leads back to Turning Stone, where the actual induction ceremony takes place. So yeah, there is a whole program of events. It's similar from year to year, but there are always some surprises and some changes. And then at any point in there, you can just go into the actual Hall of Fame and tour around and take photos and just soak in all the history that's in there.
So I've spoken to an Australian guy on the pod a couple of times. Great guy. Shout out to Paul Cupid, a boxer and referee now, official and coach, a lifelong boxing guy. He was telling me on the podcast a couple of years ago, he went to Canastota one year and he was just at some sort of mingling area or whatever, and he bumped into someone and he turned around and it was Aaron Pryor.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And like, you always hear stories like that, and I believe Paul, but is it literally like that? Like, you can just turn around a corner and bump into some, like,
it is. It is. It depends on the exact situation. Obviously, me having a media badge, I get a different kind of access than someone who doesn't have that thing hanging around their neck. Yeah. But there is still that. So for a lot of people, you'll have to deal with more of a stand in line, wait, organized, being held back. The famous boxer drives by on the back of a golf cart, and the best you can do is kind of chase after him and wave, and they're off. There's some of that, but there are also a lot of opportunities to just you turn around and there's a random ex-fighter standing right next to me. I didn't notice you come up to me, Jerry Cooney, or whoever it might be. And I had a little taste of that, actually, not at the Hall of Fame grounds, but at Turning Stone this time. It was as I was just strolling around the casino floor, there walking all by himself was Jesse James Leha, and I stopped and chatted with him for a few minutes. So that's the kind of thing that does happen up there. That I remember the last time I was there 3 years ago. When I first got into town, I was staying at Turning Stone on that trip, and I first got into town, was getting ready to check in, walking past the casino floor, and there's Terrence Crawford walking literally by himself. Nobody seemed to recognize him, or nobody cared. It was the Thursday night still, so the boxing crowd hadn't necessarily fully arrived yet. arguably the best fighter in the world at the time, is just walking right past everyone and people aren't even really noticing, but you absolutely could have stopped and said hi and taken a picture or whatever. So.
Wow, that is amazing. And if anyone wants to get more of Eric's thoughts, he's written a sort of a recap article on the Good Fight, which we'll get to the Good Fight later and have the link in the description for all that sort of stuff. Also, Eric, just last thing on the IBHOF, mate. Lucky I got that out in the right sequence. I didn't even have to look at it, funnily enough. But you did some video. You made a 4.5 minute video piece for the Good Fight as well, which sort of, was that something new for you, doing the video sort of aspect of things?
It was, and I can only take partial credit for it. I gathered all the footage, which, with a camera, with a smartphone these days, anyone can shoot footage. It's not that difficult. I am a total amateur at it, but I have a sense of how to frame a shot sometimes and what to zoom in on and how to pull back and whatever. So it was my editor, Jason Langendorf at The Good Fight, said, hey, gather whatever sort of B-roll you can. We have a guy there named Lucas Cattell, who really knows what he's doing video editing wise. Just keep sending me footage all throughout the weekend and he'll put something really cool together by the time it's over. And indeed, so that's what I did. So Lukey gets most of the credit for that video, and then Jason narrated it. I just took the footage and sent it in, but I'm really glad I did. I thought that turned out to be a really cool companion piece to my article to sort of show everyone what it actually looks like being there.
Yeah, absolutely. It sort of gave a great feel of almost like a POV from the crowd, rather than just sort of shots from like highlights and sort of like a glamour package or whatever. But shout out to Luke. Right. He actually had him on the pod last week. Great guy, and he did a fantastic job. But so plans to go again, Eric? Could you imagine yourself going another 4 or 5 times in the next sort of 15, 20 years or something, or are you kind of done? What's the where you at?
I would definitely say I'm not done. I don't think it's like going to be an every year kind of. So yeah, I guess the years I've done it were 2015, 23, and 26. So, every 3 to 5 years or so. It also depends, if there's a year that some friend of mine is getting inducted or something. Like that was the first one when Nigel went in, and then I wanted to go again when Steve Farhood, another friend of mine, went in, but I forget if it was just a year or two after Nigel, but I had some conflict and I ended up being unable to go. But, so they're all different factors that may, but I'm sure this was not my last induction weekend.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, like I said, the description to that recap article, the link to the recap article is in the description of this episode, so we can all live vicariously through your experiences, Eric, from the other side of the world. But just quickly, mate, and we probably won't spend a lot of time on it, and probably fair enough, but we've got a world title fight in Australia. The IBF Welterweight title is being contested in about 36 hours time from time of recording. We've got defending champion from Northern Ireland, Lewis Crocker, defending against former 140-pound champion, Australia's own Liam Paro. For Australian boxing, this is absolutely gigantic to get a legitimate world title on our shores. There was a whole purse bid issue with Matchroom, and No Limit sort of snuck in and won by a very small amount, all minor details that probably no one cares about. But does this fight, being such a glamorous division and a legitimate title, is there any interest whatsoever in the US, Eric?
So I'm sure there is some. It's not obviously getting the attention that this coming Saturday's fight is getting, or some of the other ones. I guess this will give you a little bit of a sense of how sort of below the radar it is here. You sent me a list of the topics you wanted to talk about, and until you had sent that, I knew this fight was happening. I knew Paro was facing Crocker. I had no idea it was this week or this Wednesday specifically until I got your email. Now that's partially because since the boxing scene changes and the move over to the Good Fight, that for a few weeks I wasn't writing. I took basically a 3-week break from writing about boxing, and just in missing a few weeks, a few of these sort of details of what's coming up slipped through the cracks. So maybe I'm a little less tuned in than I would otherwise be, but I did not realize that fight was 36 hours away until you reminded me. And then I saw that on the Good Fight, Anthony Cox actually wrote a piece just the other day previewing it, and got me fired up for it. Although we don't, in the States here, we don't even know where it's airing. There's sort of, I think I saw somewhere that's expected DAZN might pick it up at the last second, but to be determined on that front. But excellent fight, definitely under the radar here in the US.
Yeah, yeah. No, shout out to Anthony Cox. He's been on the pod like 20 times. Great guy. Literally just released his book about a month ago. He released.
Oh yeah, there it is.
The Brawl at the
All
Sydney
right.
Opera House and other Aussie boxing yarns. So the link to the how to buy that is in the description of the episode as well. Shout out to the Aussie boxing scribe himself, Anthony Cox. But well, we'll keep our eyes and ears peeled for any overseas distribution for that fight, Eric, moving forward in the next 24 hours maybe. But boxing does things at the last minute, as we know.
Do you have a prediction? Is your guy Paro gonna pull it out? I saw he's a small betting favorite, like a little less than, like not even 2-1, like minus 175, something like that.
Yeah, I'm having a real hard time with my Australian bias on that one, which I always put on the table. But I think it's 50-50. Like Liam's only had one fight at 147 against this guy David Papo, and he did not look good. And to take the bias off the table, it's lucky he didn't get stopped. His eye was completely shut for 3/4 of the fight. If that happened in France, where Papo's from, that fight's absolutely over. So yeah, I don't know. I'm expecting a better performance out of Liam, but yeah, bit nervous times over here, but we'll see how we go. We'll back the local boy for sure. But probably, definitely more interestingly to a global audience and especially to a US audience, Eric, we've got coming up Tim Tszyu's fighting Errol Spence, which we've known for a little while now. And in the last week, we've found out as well Jermall Charlo and cool boy Steph Fulton are also fighting on the undercard in Sydney. The matchups have been announced. This is a bit of an American takeover of sorts coming over to the Australian market. Did you see this coming, Eric? Did you hear any whispers, or did this shock you as much as it shocked us?
Yeah, no, it came out of nowhere as far as I was concerned. Charlo, I guess, sort of makes some sense, and maybe there had been some rumblings just because of the weight class that he's, a potential future opponent for the Spence Zoo winner. Perhaps it's kind of makes sense for him to compete on a card like this, and obviously needs to get busier and just have a fight. I can't recall off the top of my head the name of his opponent, but I know it's someone that on paper looks quite a bit softer. But yeah, the Fulton news kind of came from out of nowhere, and that's a real fight. That was it seemed like, was it who? The person he's fighting, their opponent fell out, and Fulton just sort of raised his hand and jumped in. Do I have it right?
Yeah, it was kind of weird. So Liam Wilson, who he's fighting, who fought Manuel Navarrete and Oscar Valdez recently to American fans, he was supposed to be fighting against a very B-side guy, we'll say, actually on the Liam Paro undercard in 36 hours. The Steph Fulton stuff came through, they took him off that card and moved him to next month. So that's the end of July, that card. So fantastic fight. I love that fight. Probably the fight of the card for me, for sure. I'm a massive Cool Boy Steph fan. One of the best nicknames in the game too. But yeah, the guy Charlo's fighting is called Koa Mazudia. So there's two ways you could describe that matchup. One is being objective and one is being subjective. So whichever one you want to go. The subjective one is it's a real life Rocky story, He's been plucked out of obscurity and who knows what the hell could happen. Let's go, Cohen. Being objective, it's an absolutely horrendous matchup that if Charlo isn't completely washed, should win in a round. But we'll see what happens. He's got to get busy, but it's pretty big for Australia to get three massive, big international names like that to come over. It's actually unheard of. They're selling it as the biggest and greatest fight card ever assembled in Australian history. I'm sure it must be, because they would never offer any hyperbole when trying to promote a fight card. So it must be factually accurate to call it that. Oh, put them on a lie detector test and they pass every time, don't they? Boxing promoters and used car salesmen. But it's massive for us. So I imagine there will be some sort of US distribution having the names on there and the association with PBC as well. So it should be pretty widely available, which is exciting.
Yeah, I would assume that it will be available here, and even if you are getting a mismatch with the Charlo fight, the other two fights are both really competitive fights on paper. I still have no idea who I'm picking in Spence and Tszyu. It's almost more of a who am I picking against? Who is more vulnerable? Who is more just like at the end of the rope? Spence is such an unknown after 3+ years without fighting. But that's a fascinating matchup. And yeah, Fulton and Wilson. Yeah, we've seen Wilson step up at that level and be extremely competitive. So, and Fulton didn't look good at all his last time out, although this will be a totally different style than Oshaki Foster. But yeah, you're getting two really good fights. You'll put up with a big name in a mismatch in the third fight.
Yeah, absolutely. But is the news made it overseas that Tim Tszyu is now not training with Pedro Diaz?
I had not heard that. So you're breaking news for me.
Yeah, so this was pretty big news in Australia. So obviously Tim sacked or fired his entire team after his last loss, and he was US focused. All his public messaging was on, it's Vegas, I'm going to America, we interpret that as I've outgrown the Australian domestic scene. I'm out of here. See you later. Bigger and better things over the other side of the world. And he teamed up with Pedro Diaz. There was talk that he was going to buy a house in America and live there and just come back to Australia to see family and stuff like that. And apparently he got homesick. He's fired Pedro Diaz after 2 fights, 2 10-round decision wins, and he's got his trainer as the greatest Australian fighter ever, Jeff Fennick, who, funnily enough, has been absolutely tearing Tim Tszyu's team to shreds, no matter who it was, the last 3 years.
Right.
So there's a hell of a, as you know, Jeff Fennick doesn't let his opinions go unannounced to the world. So there's a hell of a lot of pressure on Tim, but even more so, there's a hell of a lot of pressure on Jeff Fennick because he's in Australia. He's talked so much about, these guys don't know what they're doing. Tim would still be a world champion, with me if he had someone with the experience and all this. Well, now he's got full and total control. So it just adds another layer of uncertainty and the unknown to also what Errol Spence is going through with Ronnie Shields now, new trainer, new team, layoff. It's like, this is really a coin flip fight, but sometimes they're the most interesting fights to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. There's just so many X factors involved in this fight. And Jeff Fennick, I think most famous for having been an answer in a round of the Australian version of the Fight Game. That's his primary claim to fame, right?
You said it. I'll print it. Absolutely. But that should be fun coming up. So let's get into what's going on with you, Eric. So as I mentioned, we had Declan Warrington on recently, right at the time where the news from boxing scene broke that was no longer going to be running with a full staff or whatever the actual business reasons were. And there was a few casualties there, which obviously Declan was one. Lukey from last week was one, and yourself, Eric. But you guys, Lukey, have bounced back amazingly well. And you mentioned the man who seemed to be spearheading this, at least from what I understand, Jason Lagendorf. The Good Fight, a new platform on Substack, a subscription-based platform. How soon after the demise of the sort of boxing scene situation did the Good Fight present itself for you, Eric?
I think the first conversations may have taken place that same day or the next day. It was like pretty quick that I guess it's just, everyone knows about the Substack route at this point. The fact that anyone can start up on Substack, charge a subscription fee if they want or not if they don't, that option is out there. And so I think it was very quick that both some of the individuals involved launched their own Substacks. And it's sort of, not everyone got the exact same treatment when boxing scene imploded, or whichever verb you want to use here. And I'll sort of double back to just say, and I said this on somewhere else as well, that I don't begrudge the owner of Boxing Scene, Gary Jonas, at all for deciding, I was losing money on this site, I don't want to lose money on this site anymore. Yeah. I'm going to gut the staff. I mean, that's his prerogative. It sucks, but I don't think that, people should be mad at him for that. And so he basically kept around 2 people full time, and then he's hung on to a couple other people on sort of a ongoing part-time-ish basis. But it's just nowhere near the staff that it once was. So yeah, Jason was one of the main, I would say, I guess, the main American editor there. And then there were Matt Christie and Tris Dixon were more of the main editors on the UK side. And so it was either that same day that we all got the news or the next day that conversations started flowing about Jason wanting to gather everyone who'd been cast off who wanted to do it, plus people who weren't part of boxing scene, and launch a new site and try to keep independent boxing writing alive. I mean, it's a tricky time in the sports media, in the media in general, I guess, pulling all the way back, full media, very compromised in a lot of ways. Sports media as well, conflicts of interest everywhere. You don't know quite what's truly impartial and unbiased unless you know who owns what. And then zooming in on boxing, there just aren't that many major independent outlets left. There are so many that are owned by promoters, connected to networks. And so, this was an opportunity to really push the idea that this is where you'll get independent writing, legitimate opinions, not Turki Al-Ashik's press releases disguised as articles. And so, that it quickly started. The discussion started quickly, and then I guess maybe 3 weeks or so passed before the actual launch took place. And we're still figuring things out. We're still recruiting people. You may have seen Jason's announcement that Stephen Breadman Edwards is bringing his mailbag over to this site starting this weekend, I believe. So he'll be a part of it. So it's still growing and gathering steam. For better or worse, I guess worse for the fans, better for us in terms of hoping to make some money out of this. There is a paywall, but I think what people are getting for, as I go into promoter mode, what people are getting for $10 a month is really a lot for their money. A lot of articles, podcasts, the videos you were talking about that Lukey does. So a modest price to read some of the best writers in the game who are not just cranking out press releases.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Well, I signed up last week. I've been loving it so far, and I wouldn't say this sort of applies to you because one of the reasons I've absolutely loved your re-entry into the writing game, maybe sort of a year and a half, 2 years ago, however long it may have been. I may have that time frame a little bit wrong. Is you've always had such a great ability to write with such personality. Like a very unique, voice. It's hard to have a unique. Don't really know what I'm saying, but like have a unique voice that you're reading. Like you can imagine you like having a conversation that same way. Like a lot of times, at least for me, I'm not a writer. When I read stuff, it seems very formulaic, very just sort of, result this, this is next. Anyone could, it doesn't matter whose name's on the byline, but especially with you, I've noticed and really appreciated there's so much personality. I love the Raskies. I love the humor that you put into it.
Yes.
It's very unique to you. Like you could read an article of yours without it saying by Eric Raskin, and you probably have a pretty good idea you may have written it, And what I've found from The Good Fight is whether this has come from Jason himself or maybe it's just sort of the shackles are off and everyone's going for it. Everyone else is writing with so much more personality too, Like shout out to my man Anthony Cox. We mentioned him earlier. I definitely noticed the tone change, when he used to write for The Ring or other outlets, Max Boxing and stuff like that, to now at The Good Fight. He's put so much more of his personality into it, different from yours, obviously, but it's so much more enjoyable as a reader because, I'm sort of ranting a little bit here, but one of the reasons I signed up for Twitter, 10 years ago or whatever, was when I realized that instead of just going to Fight News and whatever website at the time and looking for articles to get the news, I can get it straight from the author. How perfect is this? I don't need to go through the middleman, so you're sort of getting that, as a fan, you're getting unfiltered, as you mentioned, opinion and analysis that is, as a reader, is exactly what I want. So I would just put out a massive congratulations to the whole team and you, of course, yourself, Eric. It's been a fantastic start and I can't wait to see what's next for sure.
Oh, thanks. And yeah, I think that largely the personality aspect of the site, I think that speaks to the philosophy behind it when we were first brainstorming about it, that one of the things that is a staple on boxing scene and is a staple on a lot of websites that just didn't particularly interest us and that the staff that we've gathered for this wasn't really suited for, is just the steady flow of newsers. Every time somebody puts out a press release that's news, let's write something on that. And not just press releases, but a fight gets signed, news story. And those are rarely going to have much personality to them. The focus on this. Right. Purse bid updates. Yes. Everyone loves a good purse bid update. Yeah, we're definitely not doing those. We're not doing, one of the alphabet groups puts out their new monthly rankings. That's not a cause to write an article. We were thinking from the start, this is going to be mostly features and columns. It's anything that has some more depth to it. We're just putting out 2, maybe 3 articles a day across the staff, especially because when you subscribe to something on Substack, you get the email alert every time, which is great. But if we were cranking out an article every hour like we used to do at Boxing Scene, you're going to cancel that email because it's just going to be annoying you. So it's, a couple of items a day, but each item has like some real depth and some value to it, whether it's a feature story or a column, some kind of perspective. And so I think you're going to see the writers' personalities come through more in that kind of article.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's great to hear. And also, last time, which was only a couple of months ago, Eric, but right before the debut of Survivor 50, which we will get to our recap at the end, the monumental 50th season of Survivor. But we'll do that at the end. We'll stick with the boxing stuff first. But I asked you if there was possibly a return to podcasting, because I've been a massive fan of your podcast iterations over the years with Kieran Mulvaney, as I would have told you back then. I didn't know what a podcast was when you were doing your original podcast with Bill Detloff, Ring Theory.
Right.
And when I asked you a couple of months ago, you said, maybe, probably not. Who knows? It didn't seem like there was a podcasting future. Well, fast forward to last week, the debut episode of Ring Theory 2.0 dropped. You're back, Eric, podcasting. How did this come about?
Yeah. It was nothing that we were really planning. Prior to the Boxing Scene cutbacks, there was no thought of this happening. But at the instant we started conceiving this site, and the instant that Bill was sort of talked to as someone who might write for it, this is going to sort of be disappointing and depressing in retrospect when I tell you what was initially the hope was that I would be doing 1 podcast a month with Kieran and 1 podcast a month with Bill, that we were going to bring them both back. But then I don't know if you're Facebook friends with Kieran or if you saw his announcement anywhere else, but he was kind of hemming and hawing as this site was getting underway and decided, you know what, I think I'm done with being part of the boxing media. He just sort of decided if he was going to do it, it would have been for the good fight. He was thinking about it, but he decided to basically retire from boxing media. He's got all his polar bear stuff and environmental stuff and other work going on, and a book he's working on. And he's sort of lost a little bit of his love for the sport and decided, you know what, other than he still does the podcast with Dr. Margaret Goodman. He has that going, but otherwise he's basically out of boxing. So the initial thought was we'll bring back each podcast once a month. And then when Kieran dropped out of the project, Bill and I still said, well, what the hell? Let's bring back Ring Theory. We'll just once a month. Let's see how it goes. And so that's what we're doing. So we brought back, we did 1 episode. We'll have another one coming up the first week in July. And we're having fun with it. It's we fell right back into our old rhythms of Bill saying offensive things and me trying to distance myself from them.
Well, I loved it. And we were talking about sort of tone in writing and the personality and stuff like that. And as I mentioned, I never got to experience the original Ring Theory. So I was super keen to listen to the first episode. And I think within the first 30 seconds, there was a
I know what you're going to say.
Balls in someone else's mouth and some gurgling and stuff, and I was like, okay,
right, oh right. Well, that was a couple minutes. That was a couple minutes in. I thought you were going to say that because Bill's opening joke about 30 seconds in involved fisting, which I won't graphically describe at all. But yeah, he led right off with that, and we were off and running.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. But no, so different tonally from your collaborations with Kieran Mulvaney, but certainly enjoyable as well. And we hold out hope because, you probably a month ago or 2 months ago never thought Ring Theory would be back. Maybe Kieran changes his mind down the track and something like that. But the main thing is great to have you back in podcasting, Eric. I'm a fan. I think you do such a great job. And I'm really looking forward to more from Ring Theory. So another reason why people should get involved with the Good Fight.
Absolutely. I definitely, as long as you don't offend too easily, check out Ring Theory 2.0. If you are easily offended, or you are only able to listen to podcasts like in the car with young children, maybe skip it. But otherwise, yeah, check it out.
Absolutely. I'm pumped for episode 2. But let's get to it, the big one. We've been waiting a good couple of weeks. June hasn't been the biggest boxing month that we've had so far this year, seemingly. Maybe there was, but I've just been looking forward to this fight the whole month, really. So we've got Xander Zayas defending 2 of his belts against Jaron Boots Ennis. Fantastic fight. With the undercard's great too. We'll get into that. But just straight off the top, how much looking forward and excited for this fight have you been the last couple of weeks, Eric? Being a hometown Jaron Ennis resident as well.
That's true. So I'm trying to figure out how to discuss this without totally giving away my column angle that is running Tuesday, maybe right around the time this podcast drops, maybe a little before, maybe a little after.
I can hold back the release if you like.
No, it's all right. I'll sort of dance around it a little bit and hint at my angle somewhat. But so there is a sort of a pre-fight column coming from me, and I love this fight, but there are some elements of this fight that and I guess I kind of touched on these actually on Ring Theory 2.0 to an extent that without getting into the full detail, I really wish this fight weren't on pay-per-view in the US. I think this is a fight that really warrants a wider audience. These are 2 up-and-comers. Yeah, so same deal. Like you're only going to reach the hardcore boxing fans, and this is a fight between 2 up-and-coming, talented, younger fighters. I know Boots has been, in the title picture for 5-6 years now, but I still think of him as up and coming, at least from a stardom perspective. He isn't. Neither of these guys are superstars. They're rising potential stars. A fight like this is something that you wish more people could see, and then it creates a superstar potentially if the winner is watched by millions of people. So that part is a bummer. And the other thing that I talked about on Ring Theory 2.0 as well is it's a heck of a fight, Boots and Zayas. It's not Boots and Ortiz, and we thought we were so close to Boots and Ortiz. So there are these sort of like these buts that I can't quite get past with this fight. I'm fired up for it. I will be watching the pay-per-view live, no question about it. I think it's an excellent fight. I just wish we were getting the slightly more excellent fight that we almost got. But I know that's I'm failing to appreciate what's in front of me when I focus on such things. But that's human nature, I guess.
Yeah, no, great points. Absolutely, Eric. I would agree too. But this specific matchup, I'm so excited because to me it seems to be, and maybe I've got the summary of both guys a little incorrect here, but I'm sticking with it. It's total polar opposite in styles. It looks like to me. Like, and I don't. When I said it a couple of episodes ago, and I got a few comments from some people like, "Oh man, you're a bit harsh on Boots," and I don't mean this in a harsh way, but like to me, Boots isn't like this real slick, methodical type of guy. He's ultra athletic, he's super creative, and he's very unorthodox. And to me, what he does is he just throws stuff against the wall. Like he'll throw a leaping right uppercut and a left hook and just do all this wild stuff. He'll throw it up against the wall. He sees what sticks, and then if something sticks, he goes with it. And he generally finds success. And, like if you're going to beat that guy, do you get as wild as him? Do you try and be as creative as him? I don't think so. I think you've just got to go like, the old adage, fight a boxer and box a fighter, even though it doesn't apply exactly these days. But, if you're in with a guy like Boots, you want to have your hands up and stick on that jab and don't take any risks, limit openings or that type of thing. That's what Xander Zayas does. Arguably to Xander Zayas, there's no one real great thing that jumps off the page. He's just really solid everywhere. I kind of really like that in this fight for Zayas in terms of the style clash, and also the thing that I think can't be understated is he's massive. Boots has always had a huge size advantage over guys. We saw it with Junto Nakatani when he fought Sebastian Reyes. The first time he'd fought someone his own size, he really struggled. Now, maybe there was more stylistically to do with that, but I'm a big believer in size matters, and as far as I can tell, this is the first time that Boots is going to be fighting someone as big as him, if not bigger, and still coming into their own. You know, Zayas' confidence is sky high. I hate to pick against the hometown guy, but I can see a Zayas upset here.
I would be surprised, but I don't think it's impossible, certainly. I think that tactically it is what you said, that for Zayas to have a chance, he's got to just box in the most orthodox style possible, behind a jab, kind of counterbalance how unorthodox Boots is. The sort of the easy comparison with a fable that we all grew up with is that this is a bit of a tortoise and the hare kind of matchup. But do they talk about the tortoise and the hare in Australia? That's not just an American thing, is it?
It's
okay, all right, just making sure. I figured it was. But yeah,
a kangaroo and a wombat over here, but it's the same thing.
But yeah, and not to insult Zayas and say that he's a tortoise who's like slow, but he's slower than Boots. But he's slow and steady relatively, and Boots is unorthodox and creative. Boots has certain hints of that Roy Jones or that Nassim Hamed. There are little bits of that. I'm so athletic, I can get away with doing things wrong. I think he also, when he has to be technically sound, he can be. He knows how to fight that way. But his natural instinct is to, like you said, be somewhat spontaneous, make it up as he's going, and just use his ridiculous speed. I'd be surprised if size actually factors into this. I'm on the opposite side of you as far as a size advantage being a big deal most of the time, and he certainly looked. I guess this was still at 47, but Stenionis is the fight that really stood out. How good he looked, and I know we couldn't tell much from the Lima fight, but the power appeared to be there at 54 for that one. So, I think that Zayas's best chance to win, and I don't give him a great chance, but his best chance is to be as orthodox, as consistent as possible, and just keep coming behind the jab. And I mean, defense is going to be huge for him. Can he avoid, getting blasted with some of Boots' big shots? Not that Boots is necessarily a one-punch knockout artist, but he can hurt you, and he usually goes to the body real well. So Zayas has a lot to worry about, I guess is the thing. But if he can be steady and be marching forward and keep the jab coming, if he can give Boots things to worry about, who knows? This could turn into a really interesting fight.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a ton of fun. I can't wait. And the undercard's not too bad either, Eric. We've got Emiliano Vargas fighting Bryce Mills, Ben Whittaker, the UK, I guess not contender, prospect, even though he's like almost 30.
Older prospect, yeah.
And a pretty good fight on paper between Jahi Tucker and Yuri Sedino. What sort of sticks out to you the most on the undercard in terms of interest?
So I like all three fights. It's one of those things where I think each of the three undercard fights is, in a perfect world, a pay-per-view opener. And then, that's like your opening bout between two prospects. It's a great way to kick off a show. And then you get like two really good title fights leading up to the main event. Yeah. Obviously, the budget is a little smaller here, or the available talent that they had to work with is a little more diminished. So we basically get three prospect type of fights. The one that stands out the most is probably Emiliano Vargas and Bryce Mills. That one is real interesting to me. I know there's some buzz around Mills. He's Russell Peltz, the local legendary Philly promoter, has some piece of him. But I know he's viewed as the clear underdog in this one, the lower upside of the two prospects, but he has a bit of a following going on the East Coast. He was actually at the fights at Turning Stone on Hall of Fame weekend. He was making his way through the crowd. That fight really interests me, and everyone's been so impressed with Emiliano Vargas so far. This could be his best test to this point, I would think. So that one particularly has my attention. But all of them are fights where you don't know for sure going in who's going to win. Fights where there could be guys with high upside. I guess the Whittaker fight is maybe the least competitive on paper, but even so, he's fighting that Popeye guy, right? Rivera, is that his name?
Richard Rivera, yeah.
Yeah, who he I I just remember he had a fight a couple years ago against Badu Jack where he lost a decision, but it was probably a bad decision, and he kind of showed he had some worth in that fight. So, and Whitaker's been inconsistent. He's looked great his last couple times out, but he also, didn't he fight to a draw a few fights ago, or a narrow decision win? So, I think all of these are fights where whoever the B-side is live, and so that's other than the fact that we're not getting like a good 12-round title fight in the co-feature or something. That's about as much as you could ask for from an undercard.
Yeah, sort of more of a modern day card build, but we get what we get. The main event's going to be great, so we'll see how we go. We're getting pushed a little bit on time, Eric, so let's jump into the fight game.
All right, let's do it. I'm getting my pen and paper so I can jot down some notes.
This is the game that you and your mate Kieran invented, the boxing-based trivia game where we start with, I've picked a fight, which you don't know about, and I give you 5 clues in de-escalating vagueness. Is that sort of
that's a good way to describe it? Yes, we start out pretty wide open and get more and more specific as we go along until I would have to know absolutely nothing about boxing to not get it by the 5th clue.
Okay, well here we go. Clue 1.
You put on your glasses. We're getting serious now.
Yeah, I know. My eyes are I can't read anymore. It's hard with box rec, but I can kind of like. Right. Anyway, okay, clue number 1. The fight took place in the 2000s at the site of many great battles, the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, with a partially unified weight division title on the line.
Okay. All right. So, MGM Grand in the 2000s, meaning not I assume not the century of the 2000s, but specifically the decade 2000 to 2009. Or are you not willing to tell me if that it could be the entire anything starting with a 2-0 is potentially in play?
That was
here.
What I was going for, which I realize is even more vague than what I thought.
All right, that's fine. I'm glad I asked though, so I'm not focused on just the first decade. So anything from the year 2000 to present, MGM Grand and partially unified title. So there are at least a couple of belts at stake, but not. Wow. Okay, I don't think I'm going to get it in one this time. I do have to think about you. To this point, you've always given it an Australian bent of some sort. Maybe you are again. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're throwing me off at this point by a little curveball that isn't that. But I'm trying to think if there's a noteworthy fight involving an Aussie at MGM Grand for a partially unified title. Could it be something with...
So what I'm learning about the fight game is it's so much about reverse psychology.
Yes.
In terms of making the clues. So, yeah.
Right. I'm trying to... There's nothing coming... I'm trying to think if there's like a noteworthy Australian fighter I'm not thinking of who came to America. Nothing's coming to mind. I think I'm this is so wide open that I'm not even going to wager a guess. I'm going to just ask you to get to clue 2.
Yeah. Well, you KO'd me in the first round last time, so I had to make it pretty obscure.
Yeah. No, smart move.
Okay, clue 2. The loser was battling significant adversity outside of the ring in the lead up to the fight. The winner may have been guilty of looking ahead to what was next and was thought to be on the slide since a recent loss in another weight class.
All right. So the person who won had recently lost and was thought to be on the slide. The loser, adversity outside the ring. I'm trying to think of like who was in trouble with the law or who, I'm thinking of like, he was not the loser, but like, I'm thinking of like Floyd Mayweather fought Miguel Cotto as Floyd was getting ready to go to jail. That would be adversity outside the ring to be dealing with. Or
shout out to law enforcement for letting that go through.
Yeah. Floyd has his own set of problems these days, different ones.
Yeah, that's true.
So the winner was possibly on the slide, had recently lost at a different weight, and was possibly guilty of looking ahead. I feel like there are not good names occurring to me here, but Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to move on to clue 3. I'm not even venturing a guess. Nothing.
So you're kind of around the mark.
Place.
From what you said for there, you're kind of around the mark. I'll say that.
Okay. All right.
So,
all right.
I'm
ready for clue 3. Yeah.
Okay. The winner was a pound for pounder at the time. The loser with the unique distinction of being a 2-time interim champ who finally let out his emotion in a Raw post-fight interview.
2-time interim champ who let out his emotion. The winner was you said the winner was a pound for pounder
at the time. Yep.
Right. Okay. So as I'm thinking through the 2000s, and I'm still like trying to decide if there's an Australian involved in this somehow, and so the loser.
So if the 2000s are described, because I realized I made this way too vague. 2000 to 2009 is the 2000s. What's 2010 to 2019 called?
The 2010s, I guess you would call them.
I'd be thinking bang in the middle of those. Around the middle of those 2 decades.
All right, so we're going about 10 years or so, give or take, at the MGM Grand. So I'm trying to think which. So you had Golovkin was a pound for pound. We have like the Kovalev Ward fights. I'm trying to think if those don't quite seem to fit this. I don't think. Winner looking ahead on the slide. No. Adversity outside the ring. Like Kovalev had some trouble, but I don't think it's him. Have I named anyone involved in my rambling here?
Not yet, but
okay.
I should also note the other editions of the fight game we've done. I worked on these clues for about like a month or 6 weeks. These ones I did yesterday, so I'm realizing they are quite difficult. So I would say from who you've mentioned, lighter weight.
Okay, so now I'm thinking like, okay, there's like Nonito Donaire is another pound for pounder from the era. Vasily Lomachenko, did he? No, but he wasn't. He wouldn't have been coming up. Was like trying to think. Was Donaire thought to be on the slide at some point when he had like lost to Nicholas Walters, and then did he come back? Did no, I don't know. I can't quite. There's nothing that's quite clicking into place with all of this. Chocolatito was a pound for pounder.
So I would say when you mention Mayweather, it's not that was he's the not in this I've fight. Come. But when you got around the Mayweather thing and you were talking about a Mayweather opponent.
Okay. All right. So now I'm thinking maybe Pacquiao is involved in this. Or when was like Marquez was pretty much done by then. But well, okay. 2000s MGM Grand, partial world title. I'm looking back over everything. Loser facing adversity outside the ring. Maybe that is Pacquiao. Winner. Oh yeah, Marquez. Is this the 4th Marquez Pacquiao fight?
No.
The loser being just a 2-time interim champ wouldn't add up there. Now, all right, that was my guess, so I'm not going to make another guess till you give me the next clue. But I feel like I've got to get it on clue 4.
You're getting close.
Okay,
you're getting close.
Okay.
So clue 4. A shock 3rd round knockdown scored by the loser ultimately wasn't enough, as the winner's experience and class shone through the longer the fight went, the winner ultimately scoring a 9th round stoppage.
Oh, I was okay. As you were starting that clue, I was starting to think maybe this was going to be Tim Bradley and Ruslan Provodnikov. Because it was starting to fit that a little bit. That Provodnikov, was he like a 2-time interim champ maybe? And okay, but it's not that. So 9th round stoppage. Give me this 4th clue again. Now that because I was distracted thinking that I had it with Bradley and Provodnikov until you said 9th round. So what's the 4th clue?
A shock 3rd round knockdown scored by the loser ultimately wasn't enough, as the winner's experience and class shone through the longer the fight went, the winner ultimately scoring a 9th round stoppage.
So now I'm trying to think who am I not thinking of? That was it like a Maidana fight?
So you've said one half already.
Is it
of this fight?
Is Pacquiao involved? No. He didn't have a 9th round stoppage after a knockdown. Bradley.
No.
Okay. All right. Now I think I know. Maybe I'm looking back at it. Is it Marquez and Juan Diaz? Is that the fight? Do I have it?
It is not Juan Diaz. It is.
Oh, of course, Australian. So, how did I take this long to think? So it's Juan Manuel Marquez and Michael Katsidis.
Oh,
right?
Well done. Yep.
Oh, so I come into it thinking it's going to be an Australian, and then I talk myself out of it. Although it still may have taken me a while to remember about Michael Katsidis, who was a hell of a lot of fun for a little while, but is one of those fighters I don't really think about enough anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well done, Eric. That was good.
All right, those were good clues. That was tough. That was a good challenge.
I had to make it hard.
No, that was good. And looking back, maybe I could have thought about it or gotten it maybe by clue 3. I don't think I was ever going to think of this fight prior to clue 3. Even if I knew one of the guys was Australian, it still probably wouldn't have occurred to me.
Well, I didn't realize that I made the error really hard. I didn't describe that very well. So I kind of unintentionally probably put you on the wrong course. So yeah, I apologize for that.
That's something Kieran and I would talk about all the time too, is that not because of a bad clue or anything, just you start thinking, you get like sort of a part of an idea in your head, and that just then throws you off the whole way. You never get back on track. You're just like thinking about a different time frame or a different weight class or something that you have wrong. So, that was fun. What was the 5th clue going to be? I always love to hear
the fifth clue was the great Australian Greek loser was more known for not only punching the piss out of opponents, but getting the piss punched out of himself. Ironically, the legendary Mexican winner was more controversially known for drinking it.
Nice.
And then in brackets, I had piss in case no one got the joke, because when Marquez famously drank his own piss.
Yes, that is one of the things he is most remembered for: knocking out Manny Pacquiao and drinking his own piss. About 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. And I know I told you beforehand that I have to wrap up at a certain time, but I can give you 5 minutes beyond, because we do need to talk Survivor, and I don't want to rush it. So,
mate, well, that's the perfect segue. Eric, the Survivor 50. It's finished about a month ago or so. The dust has settled, which I think is probably the perfect time for us to talk about it, because, the nostalgia sort of dies away in the weeks afterwards, and we can sort of look back on it without rose-colored glasses. So ultimately, what did you make of the 50th season of Survivor?
I thought it got off to a great start. I thought the first episode, especially the first half hour, 45 minutes or so, where there was montages of Survivor history, and then just all the personality of the players that they brought back. I remember we were chopping it up a bit on I'm not sure I love all the casting decisions. As it turned out, I thought they did a really good job casting in terms of the personalities that really came through. Through 3 or 4 weeks, I was loving this season. And then it was kind of diminishing returns after that, as the cast whittled down, as some of the big personalities got eliminated, as you started to be reminded of what annoyed you about some of these personalities when they stuck around too long. I kind of had my fill of Coach again by the time he was gone, that sort of thing. A slightly anticlimactic ending. I was talking with Bill Detloff, actually, as we heading into the finale. He was saying the finale is always the worst episode. And I was like, yeah, I've never really thought about it, but you're right. There's hardly anyone left. There's usually not that much intrigue. The final tribal is a battle to stay awake while these people are asking their awkward, uncomfortable questions. And that was the case here. The finale didn't do much for me. And then on top of it all, I had the winner somewhat spoiled. I don't know if you managed to stay completely unaware, but because of my day job in the gambling industry, there was this side controversy about people betting at these prediction markets and Aubrey's odds being through the roof, her being a prohibitive favorite because something leaked out. So about midway through the season, even though I was trying to avoid spoilers, I found out that I didn't know for a fact that she won, but I heard that she was by far the betting favorite. And it sort of tainted the experience the rest of the way, that every time that she didn't get eliminated, there was no surprise for me. I knew she wasn't going to get eliminated that week or whatever. So that diminished it a little. All in all, middle of the pack kind of season, I would say. Not one of the worst seasons ever, but definitely not one of the best. What did you think?
Yeah, so I was really high on it throughout the series. And I was sort of battling with myself when it finished. And I thought there was some down episodes, but there always is, and it always annoys me. And I would do the same if I was them. Like if I was playing, I would want to get rid of all the most entertaining people, which always happens, which is such a shame. Like, why do you get rid of Devins? He did the coin flip. He won another $1 million. Like, God,
Devins was really fun this season. He was one of the people who carried it from an entertainment perspective for sure.
Absolutely. And like that Jonathan guy, like the roided up pirate, like, get a personality, dude.
The
like,
roided up pirate. Although, he made some
Captain Jack Sparrow.
Right. He made some strides as a strategic player. He's still not a good strategic player, but he trained with Boston Rob. He actually got some coaching from him. And I think it showed a little bit that he was playing the game a little more savvy this time. Still not quite enough to win, but he almost got there. But I agree. Yeah. He didn't make for great TV. Aubrey, I've liked her over the years, but she's not the most dynamic personality either. Yeah, by the time we got down to the last few, there weren't any huge compelling personalities left.
Yeah, so I was really high on the season going through it, and then it finished. And again, I totally agree with Bill. That's a great observation. The finales are always terrible. The last tribals always annoy me because, you just voted all these people out, then you got to suck up to them to get their votes. Right. I just want someone to be like, yeah, I'm better than all you guys. Vote for me. Like, I don't regret anything. You look at where you are. Look where, no one ever owns it properly, in my opinion.
Right.
But anyway, so they always kind of fizzle out the seasons, which is a great observation by Bill. But in the last few weeks, I've been trying to think, well, was it actually that good, or was it just so much better than the vast majority of the seasons in the 40s?
Right.
And where would this rank if it was in the 20s or 30s? We wouldn't even blink at it, No. So I think there was a lot of the natural, what would you call it? Like the going down of the show in general, in terms of momentum and enjoyment, at least for me, and probably you, Eric, who've been watching from the start. And, this felt like a throwback, and that's where it felt cool, and it was returning players, so they hit the ground running, and there was less sort of wokeness and that type of stuff. But in reality, would it be in the top 20 seasons? Maybe right down near the bottom if it was lucky. But yeah, I've kind of really softened on it the last couple of weeks. But interestingly enough, last time we spoke, and we were both excited going in, and we'd seen the first episode, and I won't keep you for too much longer, Eric, I promise. You mentioned that, you've watched for 25 years, 50 seasons, feels like a good place to get out. I think I've kind of come to that conclusion myself. I doubt I'll be watching 51. Are you sticking with that stance, mate?
I would imagine that I will start season 51. I didn't come out of this with the feeling it isn't like Mulvaney's attitude toward boxing that I've hit the end of the road. But I wouldn't be shocked if 51 feels like 40 through 49 or 41 through 49, I guess, if it kind of comes in, and if it doesn't grab me, it may be time to cut bait, because they're running out of different ways to shake up the show, the twists upon it. And it sounds like what they're advertising the next season as, talking about every twist we've ever used is coming back. It may be too much. So we'll have to see. It may grab me. It may be a great season. I may stick around for all of the 50s, or it could be that about 3 episodes into season 51, I say, okay, it's been a good run, but I'm done with it. But we'll see. But no, I'm not. I didn't finish season 50 feeling like my Survivor journey is complete, and I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah, well, I'm a sucker too, so I'll probably watch the first episode and see what happens. But,
right.
Well, we'll finish it up there, Eric. Thanks so much for making time for me, mate. I really appreciate it, and letting me steal temporarily and only when you're on the fight game, because I always have a ton of fun playing that. But yeah, mate, I will put all the links to your social media, also the Substack for the Good Fight, so people will be able to. Is it still in the trial period as well? I think. Can we still read your articles for free if they're not subscribed at the moment?
think that anyone who starts, you can get access to everything for the first 7 days or something like that.
Okay.
And then it goes behind the paywall. So I believe anyone who hasn't checked it out yet can check it out for free. But of course, they will ultimately see what an incredible bargain $10 a month is, and we'll sign on for the experience.
Absolutely, I would echo that. But yeah, thank you very much again, Eric. I always appreciate your time, mate. And this is already at 99%. So when we finish, it should be done in just a couple of seconds, mate. But no, thank you again, and hopefully we can do it again down the track.
Absolutely, always happy to come on, Zach.
All right, guys, and that was my chat with Eric Raskin. Just an absolute gentleman, and I've virtually met a lot of people in my time doing this pod, and sitting firmly up the very top in terms of just top nice blokes. Eric Raskin is absolutely at the top of that heap. Can't express how easy it is to organize these things with Eric, how accommodating he is, even all the way from the other side of the globe, and even where he stands on the totem pole in world boxing, and I'm not even on it, and he still is generous enough to make time for me, and it never, ever will go unappreciated. So shout out to Eric. What a great guy, and what a fun conversation, guys. I don't know if you could tell, I really, really had a lot of fun. I love that he still lets me steal the fight game off him. That was a ton of fun, and always produces a good couple of laughs as well. So yeah, I'm on cloud 9, guys. I had an absolute ball. Wish I could do that every day. That'd be a dream. But shout out to Eric, and thanks to him again for the time. And guys, as always, the links to follow along with Eric's work are included in the description of this episode, including Eric's personal Twitter account, and also the Substack link for The Good Fight, the new outlet that we spent the last couple of weeks talking about with people, contributors to that site specifically. I've signed up. I'm a member. I paid for the full 12 months. I've been absolutely loving it, guys. I'm not a shill, I'm not getting anything out of recommending this site, but just a lot of the people that I've met through this podcast contribute to it, and it's been fantastic to be able to see the shackles sort of let off them, and let them. It seems to be that they're let to create the articles that they want to and voice them the way they want to. And like I was saying to Eric earlier in the conversation, put a bit more personality into the articles and the stories that they're writing, which personally, as a consumer, I absolutely love. So I couldn't recommend getting on board with The Good Fight, the true home of independent boxing journalism globally. So guys, the link to do that is also in the description of this episode. So click along and follow along if you please. So programming note, guys. While I just have a sip of water, excuse me, I've been talking for a little bit, and it still is a cold as hell early morning, so bear with me for 2 secs. All right, there we go, wet the old whistle. Guys, programming note. I did say on the last episode that I was going to come on for a solo hit out after Saturday night's Melbourne Pavilion show. Now, also shout out to another mate of the show, Liam O'Brien. Let me know the day before that the Australian title fight between Donald Jones and Sebastian Wells was actually cancelled. I think Sebastian Wells got sick or got injured, or maybe Donald Jones did. I can't remember the exact specifics of it, but it kind of like took the luster off that card for me. And to be totally honest, it got to like 9 o'clock on Saturday night, and I forgot it was even on. Totally forgot to order it. My bad. Totally forgot, guys. But the good thing is, because I had already previously organised with Eric Raskin, I wasn't sure when we were going to be recording during this fight week, whether it was going to be later in the week or earlier. As it so turns out, Eric was available on his Monday, which is a Tuesday in Australia, which worked out absolutely perfectly. So I thought, okay, this is brilliant. We'll jump on, do the pod with Eric. And then in terms of a hit out, obviously because this will be recorded before the Liam Paro Lewis Crocker result, I'll jump on after that fight for the solo hit out. So still kind of patchwork quilting this month together. And as always, I've sort of promised something and didn't deliver on it. But I mean, it was only a minor hit out. I mean, with all due respect to the Melbourne Pavilion and the fighters that were on that show, I don't think there was a ton of interest in that show, and especially even so when the main event fell through at the last minute. But certainly want to continue to follow those fighters in the future, and maybe we'll do a hit out after one of the next times that any of them fight. But that's the plan, guys. So had a ton of fun talking to Eric today. Heaps of topics to get through, but in 36 hours time, we do have the IBF Welterweight World Title contested on Australian shores at the Pat Rafter Arena in Brisbane between Liam Paro and Lewis Crocker. I am fired up for it. So the plan will be, obviously, you're going to watch the fights tomorrow, and it'll be too late. I know some people like get on straight after the fights and it's like an instant reaction, but I don't know, man. I've got to get up for work. So I'll probably go Thursday after work. So expect a hit out to be hitting the feed and the channel, audio and video style. Probably, I get home from work 4:30. Yeah, probably around dinner time, I reckon. Maybe early evening-ish on Thursday. That'll be the plan, because we know that fight's going ahead. So there'll definitely be something to jump on and have a solo hit out about. And guys, I can't tell you, I'm so fired up. Was talking to previous guest on the show and mate of the show for sure, mate in real life, Stephen Edwards, a member of Team Paro, Cutman, Australia's best Cutman, I believe, the other night, and was getting fired up. He actually rang me while I was in a scissor lift. I was like, Stephen, I'd love to just talk to you for 2 hours. Can I call you later? And he graciously let me call him back later. So no, it was fantastic, but I'm super fired up for that fight, guys. I think the weigh-ins are going down in a couple of hours from the time of recording this outro. So look, you can tell I'm excited when I just ramble about stuff. Super pumped for that. That should be awesome. And good luck, best of luck to Liam and the extended Team Paro. So guys, I think that'll do us for this episode. So that was the third individual guest on the TUSC this month. I feel like it's been a good, productive month. But if you want to get in contact with me, you can send me an email at tuscpod@gmail.com. That's tuskpod@gmail.com. If you want to throw a tweet at me, you can do that at delivery_man2. Also got the YouTube channel, guys. Also got the Instagram page, guys. They're both just at tuskpod, TUSCPOD. So if you'd like to jump on and support the show, you can do that at either of those previously mentioned places. So guys, fights are almost here. Let's get to it. Best of luck to all the Aussies and everyone competing on the shows, but especially to all the Aussies, because we are biased Australians, or especially I am. So yeah, guys, have a good fight night, and I will chat to you on Thursday.
Well, let's travel, may add up the change. Living like there's no tomorrow, then tomorrow came.
Going all out.
I was living like there's no tomorrow, then tomorrow came. I got the wake up call, laughing through the window frame.